everybody. Hello, Warriors. How's everyone doing today? Hello, Kevin, David. Big baby, don't cry. Big baby, don't cry today. Patrick, how are you? Reeve, Hardy, FX Glenn, Ash, how you doing from London? Okay, today we have, it's officially Adam Button Day. Adam's going to be here at the top of the next hour. I really appreciate Adam's views. I think he's one of the best in the business, so stick around for Adam. I want to start off with the update on Aussie Kiwi.
Dale.
Okay, so yes,
Good morning.
I'm not showing my screen.
Yes.
Am I, buddy?
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate that, Steve. So here's Aussie Kiwi. So we talked about it Friday, coming off the trend line and partial profits. Talked about this being a recommit. RBA, it was positive. Whatever they did nothing. So now we're trading above here. Just keep in mind that originally when I talked about this, it was one step at a time and looking for the potential back to these levels, 105.60, 105.80. So now the way it's setting up here is I would tighten stops up. I wouldn't like to see it trading back under 60. So you don't have to agree with me, but give me a why if you understand my analysis, because I like to teach. I can't help myself. In fact, a lot of people that have been around with me in chat trading rooms for years have come to call me coach. So I'm a player coach. So everyone's with me on here on Aussie Kiwi. And everyone understands the rationale. Okay. So
you understand that I'm going to call you Coach Popovich from this point on, right?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. He's a great coach. He's a great coach.
In my opinion, the best, actually.
And he was a good player, I believe.
You know, I'm not that old, so I can.
Well, I know you're not. No one's as old as me, but Phil Jackson too was a very good player.
Yes,
he was on
yes,
the
agreed.
So anyway, okay, you could call me Coach Popovich anytime. So I just have a couple of things to cover, Steve, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you're seeing. The Dixie, I saw this. I tweeted about it yesterday. It looked like a 3-driver here. 1, 2, 3. And if it's going to hold, it's probably got to dig its heels in here. But I said it was too late to be short. There is a possibility that the dollar's trying to make a bottom, especially if we get through 710. I think, you know, we've been talking about the DSI for a while, and the ForexAnalytix team, the video I tried to show you from Grega. So Grega turned pretty negative on the euro in his video, and I'm not sure if we're going to have a new high. I was trying to be patient and wait for a third drive up here. So we got the third drive in the Dixie, but not in the euro. We'll see. I also tweeted, and Nick likes Astro stuff. So Nick Normlinski called me, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and he wanted to be interviewed on the 8th. And normally, and the reason is he likes to be interviewed when he has a big Astro day, and he says there's a lot of things happening in the heavens tomorrow. So I know you follow that stuff. I'm not sure, you know, something retrograde. You know, I don't understand the mechanics of what he does, but I do pay attention to what he says. I've seen him call out turning points. Again, the guy's name is Normlinski, and he's not on Twitter. You'll have to Google him, but he definitely knows that kind of stuff if that's your cup of tea. I'd like to know if Armand's in the house. Full moon too, huh, Tom? Yeah, I've been called a lunatic before. So are you in the house? Armand, give me a Y if you are, and post that. Give me that chart from Friday on the euro. post it. Thank you, buddy. So Armand's been hanging out with me for about 4 years now. LAR for many years, and everywhere I go. So if you guys notice, you can make a lot of great friends in this business. My buddy Ricardo calls them virtual friendships, but I think they're more than that. Let me just copy it this way. So Armand posted this chart on Friday. And the reason I'm also showing this chart is Armand, I know that a lot of people call it the top of pound Aussie. I know Blake got out near the highs, but Armand also called this the top in pound Aussie. So if Armand's views and charts helped you out, thank the guy. Let's see. Okay, so this is what Armand showed. So, you know, it looks like his scenario is a break down to 985 and then a new high up towards 1360. But this was Friday. Nice top call, Armand. Very nice. And, you know, I haven't done this in a while. Okay, Blake, take your time, my friend. I haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to do it. Armand, congratulations. You have won the Face Award. Don't hand these out as often as I did because... All right, buddy, I'm going to hand you the screen.
You know, the coach. The video.
I'm going to hand you the screen.
Sure.
Huh?
Sure. We have a lot of things we can have a look at for sure.
Yeah, kind of a strange board. I know tomorrow's going to be strange. You know, the markets might go quiet during the Comey testimony, bro.
Yes. To be honest, personally, I don't find it very easy that Comey will be able to, even if he would want, which who knows what he wants to say, but I very much doubt it that he will say something that's going to, you know, be 100%. Probably be anticlimactic and get some kind of relief rally. Exactly. You know? I mean, that's a more likely scenario than expecting him to testify, you know, something like a direct violation of the law or whatever else. You know how it is. I mean, going against the system, especially, you know, if you have a family.
Especially Mueller, his buddy, is, you know, so, you know, he can't interfere with what Mueller's trying to do. So he worked for Mueller, and he's a guy running he's a special prosecutor now.
Yes, so I'm not.
But I guarantee you that the whole world will be watching it. It'll be one of the most watched congressional activities maybe since Watergate.
Yeah, well, and as I said, I'm you know, my expectations are very low for anything much out of this. I enjoyed the OJ trial a little bit, or the chase and the Bronco. Go ahead, brother. Okay, first of all, I know it's not the most popular, but we've talked about it. So Europound.
Yeah. You know what? What a great out by LeBron Morrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Indeed.
You know, he said he's getting out, and you know, there were all kinds of divergences, and you know, maybe we'll have a chance to buy this down at 86.
Yeah, you remember we had shown a couple of days ago in the 4-hour chart. Yeah. It's one of the few times I'm referring to lower time frame charts that there was an ascending wedge. And given the fact that we had already reached the inverse head and shoulders target, and momentum was obviously stalling here.
Right.
You know, if you cannot break higher, you know, the next thing that's going to happen is that you're actually going to move lower. So I think that more or less it's, you know, a given in my mind that 86 is going to probably be tested again. Now we see what happens from there. Below there we have this descending trend line that we had to break to actually move above. So
it's going to kiss it. It's a magnet, buddy. I think it's going to kiss it out.
It is very likely. As you understand, of course, this scenario can can manifest within an hour or completely break down as a possibility according to what happens with the ECB tomorrow.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm a little bit torn. I'm not sure what to expect from the ECB for two reasons. One, I'm inclined to believe, and you remember we had this conversation a long time ago, that we're going to see slowly more hawkishness. But on the other hand, they've seen the appreciation of the euro. They are seeing that the dollar is weakening. And I'm pretty sure that they will want to protect as much as possible in a discreet way the euro from appreciating, too much too fast. So
Yeah, they don't want to give up the export edge.
it's not so much of that as well. It's also a matter of inflation for them. It's it's more important.
Yeah, the Germans lived through the Weimar Republic.
Yeah,
so
in a sense, yeah.
So memories run deep. Having a wheelbarrow full of cash and dumping out the cash and taking the wheelbarrow.
Very deep. It's for whoever doesn't know historically what Dale is talking about. He's talking about the hyperinflation that Germany went through after.
And that's interesting, Steve. I mean, the trades are good, but that's Europe's biggest fear is hyperinflation. While you look at the Fed, we had the opposite experience here in the States, and the ingrained fear here is deflation.
Yeah.
It's interesting,
Yeah,
that we're both worried about different things.
Something, the whole theory behind deflation, and Stelios can talk about this as well, the general theory that makes economists be afraid of deflation, but then I'll explain what the culprit with that is as well, is that when you get deflation, it means that people expect that prices, that the real value of things that they can buy today is going to be lower tomorrow. Today and tomorrow, of course, are an example. Let's say this year and next year. So that stalls consumption, because things that you don't imminently need, you're going to think like, oh, okay, why don't I buy it next year? That's actually going to cost me less. So this is why deflation is connected with a slowing, anyhow, that like a headwind to a growing economy. Now, on the other hand, there is a big conversation that we can make asking about, do we really have any incident of deflation we can think about? We have many incidents of inflation stalling down to zero. We've had a very, very, very brief bout of deflation in the US, and I mean, now since you were talking about the US and their fear for deflation. But first of all, did we ever have a period that we had deflation in the US? Answer, no. Second question, do the metrics we use for inflation are actually counting the cost of life for a person living, exactly.
No.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. Does life feel for you to, I mean, does the cost of life seem to be stuck at more or less where it was 10 years for you, Dale?
No, hyperinflating on housing and everything. We had the crash, but especially if you don't own a home, middle class getting squeezed by high rents everywhere, and insurance costs and food, everything costs more.
But guys, my favorite quote always is, if you take out food, medicine, education, and energy, then inflation is really low, there's no problem. So basically, you take out all the necessities you need to live, then consumer electronics is going down. Great.
Yeah, but how many TVs are you going to buy within a year? You know what I mean? I mean,
exactly.
You need food every week. I mean, you need to buy groceries, let's say, every week. Do you need to buy a new Samsung TV every week? No, you don't. So why do we care if the prices of owning electronics goes down, which is of course something nice, something positive, because technology and mass production of plenty of technological innovations, becomes cheaper. But on the other hand, those are not the vast majority of your costs. you know, as a citizen of, you know, of most of the places. So, you know, as Stelios mentioned, for example, how many people from the new generation can buy a house in comparison to how many could build or buy their own house, let's say 40 years back?
Oh, especially in the U.S., the millennials are saddled with six-figure student loan debt.
Exactly. Exactly, and to be honest, I'm kind of worried with what's going to happen with this is another issue that can easily be in bubble territory, which is the student debts. It's
you know what I say about worry, Steve, and then you know we'll get back to the markets. Don't tell me that worrying doesn't work. Almost everything I worry about doesn't happen.
Very good. Very good.
That's good, actually.
I actually wanted to add one more thing when Steve talked about the deflation. You know, the risk always that academics will tell you is that when you get inflation, you get this, deflation, you get this spiral, which is very dangerous because people postpone their purchases, etc. Now, this, in theory, is something that can happen. In practice, the way all the major Western economies are running deficits, the way credit and money supply is increasing, we will be lucky to get a year or two of deflation. I mean, I think most people are going to be happy. They're going to say, right, I can get this thing really cheaper than I could before. You know, there's no way, I think, in my opinion, that we're ever going to get into the deflationary spiral that, you know, economists and the academics are always worried about.
And if we are to get into that, Stelio, the biggest driver for that is going to be demographics, nothing else.
Agreed.
Well, that's a Harry Dent argument, but there is one other thing that could happen. If you have some type of, you know, things that Martin Armstrong talks about, a sovereign debt crisis, and interest rates aren't going up because the economy is strong. It's just that to roll over debt, usually your currency is under pressure. So if there's a rolling sovereign debt crisis and rates go up, and they don't have to go up as dramatically as they did in the past, for a lot of this liquidity and asset bubbles to be squeezed and popped, and that could be a deflationary event in asset markets, where cash could be king for a while.
Yes,
so
yes, for sure.
You know, I'm just thinking that could happen.
Yes, for sure. But I'm repeating again. For example, a friend here writes. Mauro Gomez writes, nobody's going to postpone buying food, and he's right about that. Let's say that you have deflation, and you think that you can buy food cheaper next month than you will buy it this month. Is that going to stop you from buying what you want to eat? Or is that...
the only thing that will stop people from buying, and I think you've seen examples of it, I think it happened in Qatar the other day, where, you know, people ran to the store and there was no food.
Yeah, that was a panic.
I remember it happened in Belgium during a terrorist attack. I was interviewing a guy, and he said, yeah, the stores are empty. And the supply chain, the way it's set up, if there is any kind of interruption, you know, that's why a lot of people, preppies, you could call them crazy. Mormons always have believed in it. And, you know, I'm in earthquake territory that you should always have at least a 30-day supply to get through something like that. I don't, because I would eat it. I would eat it all.
I tell you what, we amassed a 30-day supply of food when this Greek government came into power. We didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
how about Canada, Steve? I mean, it's switching gears a little bit. This pop in the dollar really didn't get Canada going at all, did it?
True. Let's have a look at it.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes, you know, I'm just thinking about the community here. I know, you know, a lot of people find this interesting, but there is a segment, and you know, we're here to help people.
You see,
you know, all that really matters is pips.
USD CAD is at a triple confluence at the moment. Would I
like to see it rally one more time up towards your
what can be
area.
What can be seen as a bear flag, this ascending channel that actually gave us the top, and this previous trend line. So USD CAD is currently at make it or break it territory, as simple as that.
Way. Yeah.
As simple as that.
If there was another rally, you know, you have to have a toe in the water here in case it doesn't happen. But if there was another rally up towards 5.5, or it looks like a 50% level, yeah, 5.5 to 6 would be pretty ideal. I hear Nick in the background. Is she there?
No.
Hi, Nick.
She's not here.
Okay.
I can see in the staff list she's not here.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, USD CAD is in a make it or break it territory. By the way, since we were talking about Euro before, let me show you the trade I took yesterday. But it was night. It was after the webinar. So it's this. And as you remember, we had seen this. You remember that we drew that together the other day?
Yeah.
I was waiting to see what would happen with yesterday's candle.
That's another thing that Armand called. You know, maybe we should put him on the crew. He's looking for the potential of a right shoulder.
Perhaps
down towards 5, 6.
Perhaps it was Armand that day that said, let's have a look at it. And it was this day. And I said, listen, we are still in the, I had drew back then this horizontal area. And I already had on my chart the ascending channel. And I said, listen, you know, it's very, very likely today's candle is very strong. But, you know, for me, the level to watch is this, the confluence of the channel and this area. So yesterday, we closed below both of them.
A weak inside day.
Yeah, I was contemplating if I'm going to take it ahead of the RBA. But, you know, I thought to myself that...
That's hard to do.
Yeah, just ignore it because I like the technical picture, and many times that's more than enough. So, you know, it was, you know, obviously it worked very nicely. It could have been the opposite. We could have seen another high.
Right.
Sure. Okay, you know, it can happen. So now I haven't still traded my stop loss. It's above the highs, but I think I will be doing it quite soon. I want to see what happens from here. But the target I have, as I had discussed back then, a first target is here. I'm looking at this peak, and we have these lows as well, which is at around 146, and then it's this area. Below that, it's the wedge. But you know, let's take it one day at a time. For the time being, my next target is around there. We can also now that we have a breakdown, we can also draw a fib and see. Let me also put the magnet so we can get a proper and see what we're looking at.
So Steve does the candlestick and analysis for ForexAnalytix. Was this
actually?
Was this covered?
I do basic. No, we don't cover Euro Aussie. I do basic technical and candlestick. Blake does them as well. So you know we interchange, etc. So we have to supervise. You know, because sometimes, you know, I might see something Blake doesn't see. More often than not, it's the exact opposite. Blake sees something I didn't see. So, you know, this way also people get both our points of view. So in essence, not only they get 5 types of analysis, but having to do with basic technical analysis, they get 2 pairs of eyes. We try to interchange every day. So he does half the pairs, half the tickers, I do the other half, and next day I'm going to do the half he did and he's going to do the other half. So this way they also get 2 points of view. Every 2 days they get at least 2 sets of eyes and our inputs. So I think...
And I remember Greg showing a long-term monthly chart of Euro Aussie, and the targets are sharply higher. So I mean, if this sets up to be a nice break into that confluence area, it could be a great campaign position trade type of situation.
The Euro Aussie, you mean?
Yes.
I'm positive the Euro pairs. You remember we've discussed that a long time ago. I'm positive the Euro pairs, no question.
So I mean, so what's going on now is if you miss the wave from, you know, late February, early March, and the Euro crosses, and the Euro, you're most likely getting a setup to enter.
I mean, honestly, I'm really looking forward to a good opportunity to join for a longer term position on the long side. So for example...
Because if that's wave 1, Steve, and that's a hell of a wave 1, and we're in 2 or B,
Yes.
The next advance could be 1.618 of 1 or A. That's a huge move. That's a money wave.
I would want Gregor's opinion on that, but I don't.
Take mine.
I don't.
Take mine.
No, I'm going to tell you what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't find it impossible if actually the first leg of the reversal. Let me zoom out so people can see what I'm talking about. So it wouldn't surprise me if the first leg of the reversal is not done yet. Perhaps this is a wave 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we see a deeper correction. That's why I'm very careful, and I'm going to be very fast with trailing my stop loss in this short, because I'm not very convinced that we're going to get a deep pullback. But we might, even if that's the case, we might see something deeper than this to test this area or this area. So, you know, I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to let this run against me. Worst case scenario, I want to leave this trade, you know, unharmed at break even. Because, as I said, I do believe in the upside of the euro pairs. This is Euro Kiwi, by the way. You remember we had drawn this from here. We were testing this zone. And, you know, we drew this line, and I said that I like very, very much a retest of this high. We also had previous peaks, etc. And as you see, it's working out pretty perfectly. Of course, that doesn't mean that every time you make a prediction based on levels, it's going to work as good as this. But in this case, it works, you know, very nicely. And I'm still looking forward to a retest of 154.80 and see what happens from there. Very likely, as Gregor would like to tell you, that this...
Maria agrees with you. Maria Ferreira agrees with you. That's right. We ended at wave 3. I pay attention to this community. Nigel's having some problems, stuck on face.
Yeah, I see that.
But Maria sounds like a shooter for her to have that view. So...
this is going to...
We have pros in here that are hanging out. This is not a hobby.
There's no question about it. That's why we're here to share opinions and, you know, see their opinions as well.
Yeah.
We might even have a gap fill actually here. So this move lower might even... I know that Gregor likes this possibility to fill in the gap. So we might get a deeper correction to actually fill the gap above 152 and 50, whatever it is. So that's with Euro Kiwi as well.
Someone says Guppy is spiking. Spiking which way? I'm looking at.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Oh, I know which way it's going to be spiking higher actually, because I see what's happening with cable and USD yen. Yeah. Okay. Having to do with Guppy, since they mentioned it. Okay, listen. We've had another retest 3 days ago of the channel. We got another rejection. You remember that we were looking at this week's down here, and we said that, yeah, okay, this is a nice reversal possibility, but as long as the channel holds, there is no bullish case to be made. And today we're also making an effort to reverse higher, but there is no trigger yet. I mean, even if we see a bullish candle, we saw a bullish candle here as well. We got a daily hammer, we got a follow through. I would like to see a higher high to say, okay, that's it. Now, of course, you might be very positive that this is the low, so you might say, okay, I want to be long with a stop loss against yesterday's lows. Sure, that's a valid trade to take. That's not a high probability trade, but it's a valid trade to make if you know what you're doing. Because
I like inside days like we're having here in the Guppy as a preparation for a potential outside day the following day. So
you are right.
What I'd like to see.
Sometimes it might happen. Sometimes it might happen. But inside days, very often, I mean, statistically speaking, are more often than not simple pauses before a continuation of a trend. So people should not interpret spinning tops or dojis as reversal candles. They are potentially reversal candles if a stronger candle follows that shows, for example, the evening star formation and the morning star formations. And by the way, for whoever doesn't know, in ForexAnalytix we have a free educational part. A free educational part. So if you go to ForexAnalytix...
I'm going to take a quick break. Why don't you show that educational?
Sure, I'm going to show it now. So because I'm talking about some specific candles here. So for example,
anyway, when there's an inside day, I know it doesn't happen every time, but a better signal for me would be guppy to take out today's and yesterday's lows and then start reversing higher. I'd go with it.
Okay, so here is...
But what do I know?
No.
I'm a blind squirrel in the middle of a snow-covered forest on a moonless night. With shades on,
you're actually a poet.
Looking for a few nuts. That's it.
Okay, this is a good example. By the way, this is, if you go to ForexAnalytix, you'll find yourself here. There is a link on the top. It says education. If you go here, you can choose which type of analysis you want from here or there. Candlestick analysis, so let me make a point of what I was saying. Spinning tops, for example, or dojis in combination can make other formations. For example, morning star formation and evening star formation, very often this middle candle is a spinning top or a doji. So a doji or a spinning top on its own doesn't say much, but if accompanied by another candle that shows that the trend is reversing, then yes, it can be the first signal for that. By the way, since we're also talking about the site, it's not very related, but today we're going to be uploading a new blog post with the rest of the team. I mean, it's going to be in the context of what we call MAA in ForexAnalytix. It's going to be a multiple analysis approach. So it's going to be a blog post about the dollar, the treasuries, and gold. That all of us are going to contribute. So it's going to have basic technical analysis, it's going to have harmonics, it's going to have Elliott wave and macro perspectives. Because we are trying to find commonalities and confluences, and when that happens, obviously the chances of something turning out to be a good trade or a good market opinion is increase. So you can monitor. We're also going to post it. You can monitor our Twitter handle or directly the blog, and you can also subscribe to the blog, so you can to the site, so you can receive notifications from there as well. But you will be able to access it later tonight. I'm guessing in 3-4 hours from now, it should be up by the end of the day for sure. So EuroCAD, I was left at EuroCAD. I remember when we were looking at the euros, a friend asked about EuroCAD, and he said, what about EuroCAD? And I had said back then that Euro-Aussie and Euro-Kiwi look technically more clean. So I would hesitate from taking a position in EuroCAD, because I would rather be short Euro-Aussie or Euro-Kiwi. And as you
That's a nice three driver.
Not only that, it is exactly what you say, but what else is this, Dale?
Yeah. Well, you'll find that most three drive formations are in wedges.
Exactly.
When they happen in highs, they're rising wedges. At lows, they're falling wedges.
Exactly. So for the friend that was asking back then, I said that I don't see a clean setup, but you now have a clean setup in your hands. And it's an ending diagonal, Greg would tell you. It's a rising wedge, Blake or I would tell you, etc., etc., etc. So to me,
it's vulnerable.
Yeah, it now finally feels vulnerable. Exactly. So I think we covered all the Euro crosses. By the way, Blake, I'm mumbling, but if you're ready and you want to step in.
You're not mumbling. It's great content, mumbles.
Thank you. And by the way, you already noticed that. I'm just putting it on the chart as well. You called it a three drive, and why did Dale call this a three drive? Because we also have two new highs, and every time the RSI is diverging more and more. This is also called a reliable divergence, because we are diverging from above the overbought signal of 70 to below the overbought signal of 70. So I think that now everything in EuroCAD points to this being a high probability trade at a break lower. Okay, so we covered that as well.
Yeah, nice look, Steve. Everyone understood. Give me Y if you're with me on that. Up 32 pips. Nice, Louise. Geo likes, yeah, I like that too, Geo, for the guppy. Yeah. Bamsey said that he's long the yen at 935, targeting 1028.
Okay, let's have a look at it then. Okay, first of all, let's do two things here. Let's grab a fib extension, let's grab the magnet, let's take the top, let's take the bottom, and let's call this, okay, let's take the best case scenario, which is this. Okay, we definitely have no equality target from here. That doesn't say much. We tagged 61.8. Today's candle is obviously bullish, but a single candle, as I said before, doesn't say much. We seem to be holding the 78.6. So yeah, okay, you can say that, you know, 78.6 seems to be holding for now.
Well, you know what, Steve? If we get the scenario that you were talking about earlier on Comey, and there's no big bombshell,
you're absolutely right. That should give a good bid to the dollar and to risk, and that should definitely help USD yen. Yeah. You're absolutely right. So but if you're asking from a technical perspective, would I be taking a trade long here? You know, to hold. I'm not talking about a scalp. I'm taking, you know, about a you know, a trade to hold for, you know, I don't know, a few days.
Not your style.
Yeah, no,
because you know what I've noticed about you is you're patient enough to wait for not just one, you know, one contingency. You like to have confluence and confirmation, the two C's, before you decide to risk money.
Yes, like ideally, yes.
You need confirmation. You'd rather be late and have a higher probability of being right, which doesn't make you...
Actually, I don't like to be late, Dale, but I'd rather not participate at all. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely fine with that.
I mean about, well, like you showed the EuroCAD, all right? Some people could have been short on the third drive up there anticipating it. Now you see it. So it's not late, but it's not top and bottom picking. Yes, when you're looking for, you wait for reversals to confirm before you take trades.
You know why? Because, for example, who can...
Yeah, because you lose money if you don't. I know why.
Who can exclude this possibility?
That's good discipline.
Who can exclude this possibility?
No one.
Exactly. I mean, this is a likely scenario as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, if I was short here with a stop loss, where would I put it? Above the highs, right? And I would get stopped out, and then it would reverse lower.
Right. Anyway, I like your discipline of being conservative in a high-risk arena.
Although, to be honest, you know something, since we mentioned it here, Dale, I would probably, Greg is the more appropriate person to say, I'm also monitoring, you know, Elliott wave, but it is very, very likely that this is already a 5, an A, B, C, D, E ending diagonal. You see it?
Yeah. It's bearish.
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, to me, but you're right. I mean, you could have another attempt.
Worst case scenario, I see one more drive higher. Exactly. Yeah. But I think that this is a nice short. If not imminently, like, you know, today, tomorrow, definitely within a few days maximum. So it depends on...
Wouldn't it be nice to have a time machine?
Actually, I'm not even... If you had a time machine, I'm not even sure you would bother trading, Dale. You or anybody.
I'd never be... I know. I'd never be wrong. So, okay, yeah. We have UK elections tomorrow too, so you have ECB and elections. Maybe a day to conservative, huh?
Maybe a day to be.
And then you have Comey.
Yes.
Yeah, you have everything.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we obviously have a lot of risk event coming within the next 24, 30 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is a little bit of a casino situation. So
Yeah.
you either take positions that cannot be affected more from any of those factors, or let's say not more than one factor at the same time. Or if you have positions that are already running, you can just be more conservative in what you do with handling their stop losses, etc. Or you just wait to see, because, you know, very often the reactions we see from big events shape what happens from that point on, from a technical perspective at least. Very often we get technical breaks or technical signals that are very significant. For example, we've talked about it a billion times. The election day reaction in the vast majority of the markets indicated where those markets, I'm talking about the US elections, right, indicated where, in which direction those markets would move for a decently big period of time. We're now retracing, of course, everything back then, but if you then said, okay, what happened? We got huge reversals. I'm going to be in the direction of the market of where it actually turned out to be at the end of the day. You would have made good money during the following weeks. So very often, if you see big reactions, those reactions, especially if you see them after an initial big fade, like we had in the elections, that risk got destroyed that day. We got a limit down intraday at some point,
Excuse me,
etc., etc., etc. And then you saw a reversal. So especially when you get a first initial strong move and then that completely gets reversed, you can be more or less convinced that this reversal is not going to reverse again the next day. More often than not, this kind of a reversal is going to see follow through. So I'm saying that because, for example, let's say UK elections tomorrow, under several scenarios, we might see a big move from the pound, or we might see a big move from the pound and an immediate fade. So, you know, that is very important for you to notice. And of course, we're going to talk again after the elections or whatever happens with Comey and the ECB's rate decision, etc., etc. And we can, you know, we can then analyze what we think of the reactions. But you know, it's good for you to monitor as a practice as well and see in which cases does the market shows follow through, in which cases does it completely reverse what happened that day, etc., etc. So let's wait to see what's going to happen. Stelio, what are the latest polls saying?
I'll be looking to fade some stuff the next 2 days.
It depends on what we
and
see.
I know I brought up Norm Linsky. I mean, before all these things were lined up to happen on the 8th, 2 weeks ago, he told me it was he wanted to come on and do an interview, and I was already booked. But he has Turning Point Day on tomorrow, so I'll be watching things Thursday.
You know something, with all the event we have, that's not an unlikely scenario, is it?
But he didn't know. He didn't know when Comey didn't announce when he was going to testify until last week. So I mean, he called me weeks ago and said the 8th was a big day. Yeah, I guess he could have known the UK elections were the 8th, but it's astronomical stuff he does. Nick likes it.
A friend is asking about palladium. He said that he's short. That's pretty nice. Obviously, this reversal that we're getting today is huge. It's an outside black candle, and this is a reversal candle, but I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with the retest of this and this trend line. So yes, this is a very lovely reversal, but I want to see more. I want to see more.
Yeah, you know, Jess had he does supply demand work, and he was there for that last break that you participated on. So he's a very good trader. In fact, Jess, Armand, any of you guys out there, if you're ever interested in making a presentation of your methods, that's part of face. Anyone that would be interested in having me talk to you and show your stuff and what you're looking for and what you use, it's an open invite. Just let me know, and we'll find time and schedule for you. Is it a deal, Face? Give me a Y if it's a deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's good. And it's good for you guys to do it. It stretches you. It makes you accountable. Self-talk. I think Steve will agree that as he goes through these instruments with you, it's reinforcing his own work as he talks about it.
Oh,
hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey, Blake.
Hey.
Hey,
LeBron.
sorry, I had to restart some of my stuff over here, and also trying to trade out of the dollar a little bit too. Just wanted to say hello really quick, but I had an idea going into tomorrow, if you don't mind if I share before Adam Button gets here.
Of course.
Yeah, sure, buddy.
Let me.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, I'll grab
It's
green.
yours.
I exited my euro pound longs from yesterday, and I'm out of the trade right now. I actually still want to play it to the long side though. Tomorrow obviously is a big day. It's Super Thursday. Everybody's looking towards tomorrow. Huh?
I acknowledged it earlier. What a great out that was yesterday.
Thanks. I got out of all of it right at like the 30 level. So I didn't squeeze every drop out of it, but I managed to capture a lot of it. But I still want to be long. That's the fact of the matter is the euro pound. I really still want to be on the long side of this. I believe that we're going much higher. We are turning lower currently, and with the ECB first up tomorrow, there was a out today. The ECB might lower inflation forecasts, and so in other words, maybe a little bit more dovish. They may decide not to taper any of their recent purchases, and so the market's a little dovish on, or a little, the euro's trading a little heavy as a result. And here's the euro dollar. So I actually have a short on the euro, like right at current prices. I'm short right at 31 actually. So I'm in just a small position. This is more just intraday type of stuff. But I was talking with a very in the know trader who says there's 8 billion of 111 option expiries for Friday. Okay, so that's a big number. All right, and the fact of the matter is, I don't know if we're going to go all the way down to 111, but I would be a buyer down there. But not so much of the euro. Wow, the euro's still getting a lift right now. Look at the euro's ripping. What happened here?
Well, Blake, the smart money is always writing the option. So your point being that they want to take it down so they expire worthless or with as little premium as possible, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the euro just spiked up as we were talking. They must be listening to this webinar. They're like, "Oh, is Blake short? Good. I'm going to take it the other way." Anyway, this shit always happens when I'm talking. It's like, man,
those thoughts go through. Oh my God!
Wow,
those thoughts go through everyone's head.
Look at this spiking higher right now in the euro dollar.
Yeah, ECB forecast changes likely to be small from sources, and small means back to the market being afraid that the next move is hawkish. I'm with them, by the way, as we've said many times. So in this case, since the initial reaction lower, it was due to the rumor that they would downgrade inflation forecasts. Now with saying that changes are likely to be small, that brings back, a more hawkish tone on the table, and probably that's the reaction that we're seeing, Blake.
Well, yeah, I get that. So here's the thing. Based on what happens tomorrow, if the euro dollar does come under pressure, I'm a buyer of the euro pound tomorrow. That's what I'm actually looking to do. I'm going to look to buy. Hold on, 1 second. I'm going to look to buy some euro pound tomorrow is what I'm thinking. But because I really want to be short the cable going into Thursday evening or Thursday afternoon rather, into the UK election. I really would like to be on the long side of the euro pound. So, but based on what's happening with the euro, I don't know if that's going to happen now. Crap. Let's see. All right. You know, well, hey, I got to pass it back over to you guys. I got to trade.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
All right, Blake.
Gotta go.
Okay. Listen, Steve, you know what's interesting about this last little segment with Blake is that we're calling 30 pip moves a spike now. That was what. Have you noticed that? I mean, that used to happen every.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And now a 30, 40 pip move in the euro, which you'd say 150 pip ATRs. We call that a spike now.
True, so, but as you know, Blake is no demo account trader or.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
oh, sure. Look, anytime you're in a position and there's action like that against you, it's heat. That guy I interviewed yesterday, one of the most interesting thing he said is when they were in their live trading room, they hook up a heart meter on the trader, and you could see his heart rate going up when he's putting a position on. Yeah, I'm sure that happens to all of us.
But by the way, I have to tell you that this is one of the reasons that I decided early on that the style of trading that I prefer is the style of trading that I'm doing, is because I cannot handle this type of working conditions. For example, Blake now saw a 30 pip move, and he has to go adjust positions, see what he's going to do with repositioning in some things or taking a fresh position or whatever. And I don't like to live with this kind of anxiety. You know what I mean? I'd rather shoot and let go and have longer term positions, because probably I'm not mentally resilient enough to go through what Blake is going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't do it anymore either.
No, I never could. I mean, I never could.
I tried.
I could, but I never enjoyed it. That's actually the issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, my friends used to say, Dale, you like to hear the ice crack. So I fell through it a few times. Anyway, Adam's going to be here in 5 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the house now.
Okay, go ahead and see if you can fetch him as I'm checking at the questions and see, as long as you're trying to fetch him, if there is something else we need to go.
Okay.
Yeah, silver and gold. Yeah, very fast. And tell me when you're ready. So I'm gonna.
Oh, you got it, buddy.
Silver
Thank
rebounding.
you, Steve.
Silver.
Adam's in the house.
He's in the house.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a quick break and.
Okay, so I'm speaking as long as you're in a break and.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so silver, guys, nothing has changed in silver. We retested the 200 EMA today. We are rebounding again. Personally, I don't believe that's going to be long. We drew that yesterday as well, that perhaps a retest of 1780 something. This is where I'm going to let the other half of my position go, because I think we're going to see a retracement lower. So that's with silver. Nothing has changed since yesterday that we covered it. And I need to remind here that for whoever loses part of a webinar, you can always find it posted on our YouTube channel. Gold, a short-term rejection from the previous high at 1,295. Obviously, this is just a little retracement. I mean, I also wrote in the intraday analysis that somebody can say this is a double top, but our main scenario remains that until proven otherwise, gold is bullish after breaking out. So even if we see a move lower, unless we break back below this descending long-term trend line, this one, there is absolutely no reason to turn bearish. There is absolutely no reason. So keep that in mind. Nothing more to say about gold. Can it retrace a little bit lower? Yes, it can. Does it mean that this is already a double top or whatever just because we're seeing after a strong move up yesterday a little retracement? Does that mean that you know, this is the top? No way. As Dale said before, if we get a positive risk event from Comey's testimonial, etc., we will definitely see an acceleration lower. But monitor 1,278, which is also the breakout level, and the previous 78.6, and this trend line, which currently passes from like $5 below that, and we see what happens from there. Okay. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, I'm not the presenter at the moment. Sorry. I just saw it in the questions. Okay. This is what I'm seeing in gold. Sorry for having no chat. So this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I was talking about. This is the double top, and this is the retracement I was talking about, the possible retracement. And this is the silver chart I was showing before, saying that nothing has changed since yesterday. A little bit higher, might cap and see a retracement to 1720. So those were the two charts I showed. Thank you for letting me know. Dale?
Yes, I'm just sending a Skype to somebody, and Adam's here, so we're going to get started in 2 minutes with Adam Button at FX_Button at Forex Live. So just hang in there with me for another minute or two, Adam, and I'm going to make you the presenter.
By the way, USD Ruble, I had shown that some time ago. It still remains interesting. You see why? Wedge, descending wedge, breakout, retest, another wedge. If we see an acceleration here, I'm going to like this trade very, very much. I'm not involved yet, but it's one of the things I'm monitoring. Crude. We got yesterday, we got an inside day. Actually, be very careful with crude, because this is an inside day for the time being of an inside day. Usually, that's a rare event, getting an inside day of an inside day. So watch out the breakout from the highs and the lows of the first day, which is 2 days ago. That might indicate the next move, but regardless, I personally cannot turn positive as long as we trade below $49. So for me, an important level to watch is 49. You remember I was in Cyprus. We had seen this big down day, then the rebound, and you know I had said from the big down day that I'm expecting a short-term rebound and a move lower. We got that. Now, if you're asking what the next move is going to be, I really don't know. I can tell you that I maintain a bearish bias below 49. That's all I can tell you. I like to be nimble with crude because it has produced plenty of violent moves and counter-trend moves very often. So this is quite a choppy market, and a market that likes to catch people off guard. So that's it about this.
Okay, I'm going to bring Adam on now then.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to listening to the interview.
I'll tell you, Adam's a news trader tomorrow. This is his kind of market.
So
hi, Adam.
This is a perfect day to have him on. Hey, Adam.
Yeah. Adam, I made you the...
should be on here now.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Hey, good to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah, waiting for your screen. Oh, your screen is up. I'm looking at mine, right? Let's see, now, where is it? I don't have your screen.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm just picking it to put up myself there. It looks like Sterling there, right?
We can see you now. Perfect.
Yeah. Do you see him, Steve? What do I need to click on to see Adam's
yes,
there?
Yes, I can see the screen.
I got you, buddy. So this is really an Adam Button environment because Can you remember a day, Adam, where we're going to have so many different news events tomorrow? I mean, it's a hullabaloo.
It's not only the usual scheduled news. Sometimes you get non-farm payroll, something else, but it's these unique events, right? Like an election, like this testimony, which is something that is very hard to quantify, and then you have the ECB on top of it all, and a couple other little things. So it's just going to be an awesome day, nonstop. I mean, the leaks are already starting on the ECB. And on Comey, we had some stuff yesterday, so it's going to be one thing after another. It's going to be a lot of fun for news traders, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, I love your desk. What a cool workstation. You would have won our contest, I think. You could have some silver dice. We had a competition for coolest workstation. I really like that black desk. So
actually working on a video myself. I built a new office in my house, and I'm actually doing the cable management underneath this desk right now, and it is it's just a nightmare. There's just cables everywhere, and I don't know how to do it. I would pay someone to come in and do it because I'm so intimidated by these cables running everywhere.
You make a few pips, and that's a trickle-down economy there, buddy. You got to support those, electricians and carpenters. So what are you thinking, man? We have that little spike on the euro here, and people trying to bottom pick the dollar, and UK election. What are your biases for how you're going to look to trade the events? Even though I know it's very difficult to, a day ahead of time to know how the market's going to react to it.
Well, I'll start with the first one. The first question you asked is the euro, and it's interesting. I mean, it's big news that the ECB is going to cut its forecast. So if you haven't seen the news, the story out from Bloomberg was that the ECB will cut its inflation forecast for this year to 1.5% from 1.7%, cut next year and the year after, all by about the same amount. And that's incredible because you have an improving economy in Europe. So the reaction, though, is even more telling in the market. The euro fell about 50 pips on the headline, and it's come almost all the way back since then. And, every research note that I read says the same thing. It says buy the dips in the euro. And you see it more and more in the markets. Like everybody is out there waiting for some kind of dip back to like 110 or something like that to buy the euro. And we're seeing every dip is just more shallow. And now the euro gets hit with some pretty bearish news, and the dip's 50 pips, and then it gets erased in a couple hours, and it just shows me that this market is geared up to buy the euro, especially euro dollar.
Adam, sorry to interrupt. I don't know if it's Steve. I don't know if you saw it, but the buying of this dip happened because we got new rumors from Mississippi sources saying that forecast changes are going to be minimum, minimal. Sorry.
I see that the Reuters one. I think that might be the same thing, though. I mean, maybe it's kind of like, what do you mean by minimal? 2 ticks, 0.2, on inflation. That to me it means the same thing. So I think the bounce was already well underway before that next set of headlines. But I get that too. So maybe that's helping. Maybe people are doubting the source, but I'm not going to doubt a Bloomberg source. And if they have the numbers, and although they did say it was a rough estimate, but it's still the direction is down.
What if the prediction about downgrading inflation is solely based on expecting cheaper prices for oil?
Yeah, that's in there as well. I mean,
which is growth positive on the other hand, right?
Right, and that's in it, but you're talking 2018, 2019, like that you really, it's impossible to downgrade it to then. Even if you have, $30 oil tomorrow, well, that filters through in a year or two. If you're downgrading the forecast 3 years out, that shouldn't be on oil. It's really impossible. So, it just, to me, the market reaction is really the story. So even before you got that second story, you had the euro bounce 30 pips out of the 50. And it just, to me, shows a market that wants to go higher no matter what hits it. And it makes sense. I mean, the euro is extremely depressed. The market started the year very negative. And the U.S. economy hasn't been as sparkling as most people thought it would. So it's been set up very nicely. It was held back by the French election. That's over. Europe suddenly seems unified. I mean, there's no unifier like economy and enemy. And Donald Trump has made himself that, and Merkel has helped it along. So Europe suddenly seems a little bit more unified, and everything is lined up so nicely for the euro.
Yeah, so what you're saying, Adam, and I've seen this before, I've seen everything. But when a market does not give people the opportunity to buy breaks, that really shows how bullish it is. And Blake brought up a point that there's huge open interest on the 111 calls that expire Friday, and these guys are getting squeezed. Okay, let's face it, 90% of the time they collect the premium, and I think that could also be a factor in here that they're squeezed, they're underwater here. The pros wrote the calls, the amateurs bought the calls. So huge open interest, that could be a factor in what's happening here too. And very interesting point about Trump being a unifier for Europe with what, his statements at NATO and everything else. It's definitely a changing world order, isn't it?
Angela Merkel's a genius. She's survived the crisis. She's the only one. She is a political genius of our time. I mean, like her or dislike her, she's in power and she's as secure as ever, headed to another election. And by vilifying Trump and picking a fight with him, it was genius again, because she has Macron on her side. She suddenly seems to have all of Europe on her side. And all this rage that was directed at Germany, or at least some of it, is being redirected across the Atlantic. And it helps secure her position again and her goal of unifying Europe under Germany. So it's amazing.
She's like a modern day Margaret Thatcher from Germany.
She just keeps winning, right? And you can't
this is a good point to remind people that she is a nuclear physicist, actually. So she's a smart cookie, isn't she?
and the other, almost rival to Merkel in the Brexit negotiations will be Theresa May. And she looked like an amazing politician 2 months ago. And suddenly, no matter what the result of the UK election, she appears weakened, right? Yeah,
interesting. So, EG has been kind of a favorite trade, and that too, a lot of people, like I thought, before today, EG might give us a better entry, 86 range, something like that. So do you favor, with what you've said about the euro and people voting with their wallets and buying shallow dips, and what you see happening with Theresa May, does that give you a longer term view, of a constructive view of euro pound?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a tough trade, because I have sterling up on the chart there at cable, and it just won't go down right now. I mean, it's extremely depressed as well. And the election, if you look at the polls are crazy, right? Some have an 11-point lead for the Conservatives, some have a 1-point lead for the Conservatives. But going into the 2015 election, they were even, and the Conservatives still came out with a majority. So I'm really struggling to believe that the Conservatives will somehow lose this election. I mean, they've kind of lost it in a sense that they're not going to win what they could have. And Theresa May does come out weaker for Brexit. The real trade on sterling is Brexit, right? But the short-term trade is the election result. And the election result, I think, is a Conservative majority. I mean, it's not this gigantic majority they were hoping for, but it'll be a comfortable one, I suppose. And you get some upside in something like cable on that, and probably some downside in euro sterling on the knee-jerk. But, you get right back to the status quo afterwards, and then you start to look forward to Brexit negotiations, and Theresa May suddenly looks a little bit less of a worthy combatant to Merkel, because she's stumbled here, and she's not as strong at home. So then the longer term trade argues for euro sterling, but there are really no negotiation. There's no winner in Brexit negotiations unless they come to some sort of agreement to really keep the status quo.
Okay, so I get from you that hesitation. You're kind of constructive the pound too. So
I like it.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe it's just a dollar trade, Adam. Euro leading the way, but Kiwi, great recovery. Aussie's acting good. Pound, you're constructive. Dollar index broke down. It's trying to generate a little counter trend rally here. So maybe it's just fade the dollar against anything.
I think that is the trade in the bigger picture, that the Fed is going to hike rates, but it will probably be a dovish hike, or at least leave the door open to that. And then we get back to data. The data has been soft, inflation soft, which is the story around the world. Even though there's growth, there's no inflation. And I think that just hurts the U.S. more than anyone else because so many hikes are priced in. I think we're priced in through next year up to something like 2.25%. And that, I mean, I'd take the downside on that, any sort of hiccup. And you have that. Now, to touch on seasonals, you mentioned Australian dollar, very good month coming, and 2 months ahead for the Australian dollar. It's extremely depressed. The RBA this week brushed aside weak Q1 growth. We're past Q1 now. I think there is some upside in something like the Australian dollar. Cable seasonals are strong for June and July as well. Now, we're in the middle of an election, and you don't trade seasonals around an election, but there is a small tailwind there as well. Stocks are a little bit more negative, so you can extrapolate from that, maybe some more downward pressure in treasury yields and some weakness for the US dollar. And so it does set up nicely for a lot of those dollar short trades. And I think the market's been trying to say that for a little while. I mean, dollar yen does not look very good.
No, it doesn't. And what really took it down the other day, Adam, not yesterday, I think it was, yeah, it was yesterday when we were down 100 pips. Was it news driven or what was it? I thought it might have been the fact that Comey's testimony was going to be a wider ranging testimony, not just his conversations with the president about being loyal or stopping an investigation, but possibly talking about Russia. I didn't see any news that drove that, and when there's no news that drives price action like that, it's even more bearish to me.
Yeah, it hit at that time of day that's usually like, you call it the Trump hour almost. It'll be late in North American evening that you get these leaks, it seems, almost every day, some sort of story about Trump. And there are those worries, but I also think, and it's definitely out there, that combination of things, but the bond market is a big one, and some stories came out about China buying bonds again and loading up in treasuries. We've seen the reversal of FX reserves there, and that fits into, I mean, if you look at the 10-year yield chart, which is a chart at all times, it's broken down.
Yeah, it looks like under 1.8 possible, but not 1.3. So I think that, in my view, in my humble opinion, that even though this is a tremendous bull move in bonds, and the TLT chart, I've been talking 130 for months now. We're not there yet, but I think that this could set up a great shorting opportunity in bonds, with yields making higher lows and prices making lower highs in the next few months. It's funny how the low was made on the last Fed hike. Maybe we're going to near the tail end of this bond rally with this Fed hike coming up here.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens around 2% and then 180. Those are the big levels. I mean, there's still a lot of room to run before we erase that election move higher in yield.
So that could take yen down to 105 or lower. What do you think?
I mean, if you draw the straight correlation, and this was one of the charts I had, you have 100 is if you erase that election rally. But, when you think it's just China buying bonds, well, it doesn't, that doesn't say anything about the fundamental picture. You take the 10-year yield as this, I take it as this view of fundamentals from an enormous market, extremely important market. Right. And it has everything priced in. But if China is just this outside buyer, it really only tells you something at that point about what China's thinking, not about the U.S. economy and so on and so forth. So, I'm hesitant to see that kind of downside in dollar yen.
Adam, but since you
session 1 millennium from now or so?
Yeah, because it's unnecessary, right? The inflation isn't there. So let's wait for the inflation. And I think the Fed, their credibility is so strained over the last decade by over-predicting growth and inflation that they have to sit back at some point and say, okay, we need to see inflation. And I think that's what we get in the middle of June is they say, all right, well, we're going to sit back and we really believe this growth and inflation is coming, but it's time to see the rubber meet the road. And if it doesn't come, we're not going to hike again. But you have a lot to unwind from the U.S. dollar and yields staying low at the same time. But it's just that we're in a deflationary world. Globalization, automation, offshoring, technology, it's tremendously deflationary. And you see it in retail every day.
You just don't see it in Toronto real estate or San Diego real estate or food prices.
And that's the flip side of low interest rates, right? And you need this macroprudential regulation. But I mean, that's a long conversation because it's out of control. And it's land use planning, it's construction costs and that don't match reality at all. But I mean, that's just poor government in every sense. So that's a big trade almost everywhere. And again, speaking of government, I mean, America has a tremendous ability to borrow and invest in infrastructure right now, and that was sort of what people voted for in some sense.
Right.
Like, where is it? We're talking about public-private partnerships now, and if you're just going to build a bunch of toll roads, is that really that great for long-term growth? I don't know if you can borrow at 1%, just build it yourself.
Yeah, I think that they were talking about even putting out 100-year bonds to finance infrastructure. And in this environment, they'd be bought, wouldn't they?
Yeah, why not? Right?
Looking for yield, the seek for yield right now.
But Canada's one of the countries that's doing it, and now OECD is predicting 2.8% growth this year. Canada went into huge deficits last year, and it doesn't pay off.
I'm not sure if it's in your wheelhouse, Adam, but I'm interested in your view. What do you make? What do you make about this cryptocurrency, parabolic, highly speculative environment? I think we maybe talked about Bitcoin, years ago. What's your take on this phenomena happening in crypto?
I've been getting a lot of calls lately, the media calls and that sort of things about Bitcoin. And I charted out when I get asked a lot of questions about Bitcoin, it always seems to top out.
Yeah.
Because you get this sudden spike in interest. But man, I have people, friends of mine who aren't interested in currencies or anything, calling me up and asking me about Bitcoin. So it has moved to this Main Street phenomenon, and it's not just Bitcoin; it's other cryptocurrencies like
Ethereum. Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, it has to come down to utility, right? Like, what's the point of it? I think foreign exchange costs, even physical foreign exchange costs, are moving towards almost nil. So, if you have a distrust of government, well, I mean, how big a market is that? How useful is that? Now, if you're money laundering or you're in illegal activities, there's a huge need for it. And I think that is something like 7% of global GDP or 5% of global GDP. And, that's extremely useful for those people. And I think that's really the trade. Plus, now you have ease of access and you have public falling in love with it. So if you get an ETF, and I think a lot of this latest trade is really predicated on ease of access. If you can buy Bitcoin as easily as you can buy Spider or any other ETF, then I just think a lot of people will just take a punt on it. And 3,000, why not 10,000? Because it's certainly
you can't short it. Right. I think it's very difficult to short. So that eliminates some of the selling in these vehicles.
Right. Maybe you could do it through the ETF, but it's just never going to add up to slow it down. And again, there's no fundamentals. So why not 10,000? I believe it can go there. I mean, even the technology side isn't that compelling, but people want to fall in love with it, and I think that's happening right now. And that whenever you think it's running out of legs, it just gets another leg up, and it could be capital controls in China or worries about the Korean government. There's always worries about a government somewhere, and if you are knee-jerk, at least part of the population is to buy the safe asset. That might have been gold, and it still is gold, but it could also be Bitcoin because you can store it electronically, where gold is a little bit tough to store. Then then sure, why not? So it's out there, it's an asset, it's a thing now, and I think it's just a trade on the psychology of the market until proven otherwise. But anything that goes up that fast can go down.
Right. So speaking about parabolic moves and manias, Adam, that they say manias first break the people who bet against them, then break the people who bet on them. You see anything, any deterioration happening in any of the stock indexes? I noticed that the Russell, which is really a domestic-based market, U.S. companies, has way been underperforming the S&P and the Dow, and especially NASDAQ. And they seem to do better when the dollar is strong, where the multinationals do better when the dollar is weaker. Do you have any view on what's happening with S&P 2400 up here?
Well, seasonals are a bit weak headed into June, July. It's about the weakest time of the year. And you really had this whole stock market gain driven by a few stocks and tech. Yeah. And I think this last leg of that is everybody giving up on everything else and piling into tech. And then you get, Amazon over 1,000, Google over 1,000. Well, those are kind of the big targets, right? Because you're in uncharted territory. And you probably have another little blow off, even up something like 110. You could get another 10% in those. But everything else is hollow. And once you sell those, well, what's left to buy? And those aren't trading on any kind of reasonable valuation. Yield stocks are tapped out, and that let alone
retail and oils, and I mean so many weak sectors in the market for the averages to be up here. And your point is well taken about the concentration of money going into those $1,000 priced equities. Does that worry you at all? That if there's ever a sell program on those?
You had cheap borrowing still that's driving as well, and that comes down to the interest rate trade. So I come back to that because you want to see what happens at 2% or 1.8% in the 10-year yield, because you can't bet against stocks as long as they're borrowing and buying back. It's way too tough. But if you get, like I said, oil and retail are two good ones to watch because they could start to lose money. But I think home builders can still be strong, especially with rates low. So there's always going to be winners and losers.
It's a constant rotation that keeps the thing going. Yeah. Adam, you're one of my favorite guests, man. I tell you, I learn every time I talk to you. And I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that I want to encourage people to follow Adam, at least at the minimum on Twitter at FX_button or at Forex Live. Him and Greg are a great team, one of the best in the business, and I hope that you have a great summer, buddy. Maybe we could get together. I'm going to give you July off back in August and see how some of these things are playing out. Unless, knowing you'll probably be in some exotic location on vacation in August.
I got the kids now, so that's.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Before he got married, I'm in Panama, I'm here, I'm there. He's all globetrotting. Now he's settling down, working with his cables under his new workstation.
Hopefully I'll have those cables sorted out in a few months. Yeah, just in case I'm accused of being not actionable, I do like cable longs into the election. I think it's going to play out well. It was going to rally anyway. Euro longs, dollar shorts, dollar yen down to 105, 106. A little bit of a longer term on the risk aversion trade, and we didn't even mention gold, but I think gold looks pretty good.
What do you think? They're mid 13s maybe?
Yeah, those lower highs, and we're just we pushed up above some resistance yesterday. I'd like to see it consolidate above there, but that looks pretty good. So funny, and Comey himself, who knows, right? I think the trade has been to buy dips on risk aversion,
right?
And we're probably. What could he possibly say? But you don't know. And it should be a lot of fun to watch and trade.
I know. It's going to be the most watched event coming from Congress, I think, since Watergate. The ratings are going to be off the sky. We'll see if it's going to be interesting to see if the markets slow down a little bit while he's talking.
Yeah.
See if we get. Let's have 15 minutes of silence in the markets to listen to Comey and not miss anything, huh, buddy?
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
so it's always such a pleasure, Dale. I love coming on and talking about markets and news and everything else. So real glad.
Thank you for edifying faith, bro. Take it easy, my trading warrior brother. That's Adam Button. Everyone thank Adam. Follow him at Forex Live. Follow him at FX_Button. Great interview, buddy. Take it easy.
Thanks a lot, Dale. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Okay, everyone, that's a wrap. Okay, you're welcome, baby. All right, everyone. Have a great afternoon. I want to thank Steve Volge for making sure there was no dead air during the day today. I want to thank Blake for popping in. Cheers from Africa. Thank you, George. Arif, Glenn, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Everyone like Adam. I think the guy's great. I want to thank Stelios for dropping in. I want to thank you guys. Great calls by Armand and all your looks. And I think we have the strongest, smartest community on the net. And that's you. So most of all, don't forget, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. I count working with the FA team and every one of you, the thousands of you that are in here every day, a blessing in my life. So we'll see you for Thursday. Good hunting. Take care, my friends.